Hello and welcome. Thank you for being with us here today, Laurence Krief. I'm Mia Forbes Pirie, and we're talking about women in mediation. And this came about because I did a video for We Are the City and decided not to tell my story about being a woman in mediation and how I was advised to not be a commercial mediator because I wasn't male or middle-aged. And it came from a very good place. And I was curious what other people's experience was. And so we're very fortunate to have with us today a very experienced lawyer and mediator, Laurence Krief, who is, as you might have guessed, not just from her scarf, but also from her name, who is French. And so we're going to explore a bit of a different system of mediation and see what it's like across the channel. So Laurence, please tell us a little bit about you and your practice, both in law and mediation.
Thank you for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here and to answer to your questions. I came to mediation after other 30 years of practice in criminal and family law. I used to be tough and to have tough cases. And once I won custody for a man who got young babies full-time at his house. He was very happy. This case was a success, but I felt very uncomfortable. And at the same time, a couple of years ago in France, arrived alternative way of resolution. And I was trained to this alternative. It took me for mediation 2 years to be trained for commercial law, for collaborative law, 4 days. And since then, in parallel to my usual practice, I try to develop mediation and alternative resolution. I felt much more comfortable, but also very often scared, because when you work as mediator, you never know how the meeting is going to be held. If it's going to be a success or a failure, how the parties are going to behave. You never know. And you never know how you will be also. It's a artistic work, I feel, like an artist, you know? And sometimes I have a feeling to enter in an arena, like if I were and I will be in front of bulls, you know, you never know.
True, it's very exciting. You walk into the room or the Zoom room and you don't know what to expect until you've had that first conversation with whichever party you're speaking with. So yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Zoom has changed a lot and gives us much more means to solve and to intervene as mediator.
Yeah,
much more. And so we jungle between meeting in the office or Zoom meetings. And what I can say is that after 1 year of experience of Zoom in mediation, is that parties for the first meeting feel much more comfortable to start very quickly once we have presented them on Zoom what mediation is, what is a process. Because in France, the way to get cases are two ways. Either people know you as mediator and they call you like you call a doctor or a lawyer, and they want you to give you this job, or either your name is suggested by a judge, and the judge can't make mediation compulsory. He can only give orders to parties to meet a mediator to get information on mediation. And the gift of the mediator is to convert this meeting of information into a real mediation. So sometimes after 10 minutes, parties can say they do not want to enter into mediation, into the process. And sometimes once you have convinced them and once they see all the parties on the screen, you know, the parties, the lawyers and the mediator in the middle, sometimes they're not threatened, they feel comfortable, protected by the presence of a lawyer, and also because what we say is it's on the screen. And so sometimes after 10 or 15 minutes of information or presentation of mediation, we start right away. And sometimes it's, and we can feel that we give parties the time that justice or today can't give to parties. We give the time to listen to each other, to make sure that the party understand what the other one says and the point of view of the other party. And what I can say is that we offer time to communicate. That's what mediation mostly offers, especially the first meeting. And sometimes after first meeting, or one that could last 2 hours, for example, sometimes either the parties start meeting each other to try to solve the problem, or they call you again to say, well, we want an extra meeting, 2 hours also, and we meet on mediation, on Zoom or on physical basis.
Thank you so much for explaining a little bit about the system. And I have the advantage of having had a pre-chat with you. So I'd love it if you said a little bit more about sort of how you manage to get clients to sort of jump straight in, and also a little bit about what's changed with COVID in the court system that means there's more mediation than there was before.
Yes, because for 1 year now, at the beginning of a lockdown in France, justice was dead, didn't work at all. So after a few months of lockdown, there have been a lot of pile of cases and a lot of delay. And especially the tribunal that deals with emergency cases decided, with the influence of the president of the jurisdiction, to develop mediation. And when a case comes for the first time before court, the president of his jurisdiction orders systematically orders to meet mediator only to get information on the process. So, and it has been that's what happened mainly since June 2020.
So to encourage justice to continue to function, because the courts weren't functioning fully, they have encouraged much more mediation.
Much more mediation, and since the systems work, since the tribunal are open now, they maintain and they try to develop this, I would say, private way of solving problem in parallel of justice.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And in the UK, I think that probably in sort of workplace mediation and family mediation, there are quite a lot of women. But in commercial mediation, historically at least, there were a lot fewer women. And now it's increasing, and I think women are sort of gaining sort of market share, so to speak, but we're only around 30% of women in commercial mediation. What's the situation in France, and how is that developing?
It's nearly what you have described. It's before commercial court, much more men are designated as mediator. I don't know if it's a question of gender, or if it's a question of knowledge of the field in which matters occurs, or if it's a question of competence in the field in which the matter occurs. I don't know, but like in arbitration or mediation, when big cases are involved, I say big case with regard to the amount involved, you find more often men than women, but progressively, slowly things are changing. And maybe women have more and more confidence in the skill to not afraid to conquest this new field. But it's true that with regard to family matters, we find much more female as mediator rather than in commercial business.
So more women in family, fewer in commercial, and we're wondering, is this a reflection of just there are more male commercial lawyers? Or, you know, when we're talking before, you mentioned also the approach that men bring and that women bring, and maybe sort of people being used to a more aggressive style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's also possible for a mediator to work in couple. You know, we call this co-mediation.
We have that also, yeah.
And maybe if men also have to do also their job and ask maybe women in big cases to work with them as a co-mediator. We have this also very often in criminal cases, you know, before the la cour d'assises, when we plead before a jury, very often you've got a couple of lawyers, men and women, and we share the defense. One pleads the facts, the other one pleads the personality. Maybe we can develop as it could be also an interesting way of women to conquest new fields of mediation, especially commercial cases. But right now, thanks to the court of emergency, we call it in France référé, la juridiction des référés, the president, we discover as mediator cases where only companies are involved, such as Bayer or lease or, you know, unpaid rents. And
so since, because of the emergency court, the référé, you are now doing more commercial mediation because the court is referring that to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are various.
Usually I used to be designated by the Court of Appeal or by lawyers only for inheritance matters or family divorce matters. And now it's changing thanks to the commercial court, to the référé.
To the emergency court. So the emergency court has sort of recognized you as a good mediator in other areas, which has meant that they now say, actually, this is just a good mediator, and whether it's commercial or not, they're happy to refer to you. Oh, we may have frozen.
Can answer?
Yes.
Yes, so it's yes, that's and that has a link with the question we spoke about a few minutes ago. What is a good mediator? What do we need to be a good mediator? Do we have to know the professional field in which the matter occurs? Do we have to know the law in which a matter occurs? But parties have lawyers. What are the qualities to be a good mediator? And do we have to be lawyers to be mediator? Of course not. So it opens fields for mediator. I mean, you don't have to. Perhaps we don't have to know the professional background to intervene. Maybe
we don't necessarily have to be specialized to work in a certain area.
Exactly.
And it sounds like that is what the court is recognizing and saying, you know, this is a good mediator. I will refer commercial matters to her as well as non-commercial. And it sounds like, you know, you've given a couple of ways that women could become more involved in commercial mediation. Co-mediation with maybe someone who is established in that field, and then also just becoming recognized as a mediator, and then the court will help, you know, just because you're good. And I think we're seeing in the UK also just more female lawyers in across the board, and so that means that there are more female mediators coming into the areas where before there were less or fewer. So what advice do you have for women who are starting out in their mediation careers and would like to maybe work, I know it's not your main field, but work in the commercial field in France?
To be a mediator is you have to like not to know. I mean, because when you mediator, there's always a part of alea. You never know how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Whereas when you prepare a case when you plead, you know, you have to make research, legal research, you know what to do, you know what to say. Whereas when you start a mediation, you are like a surfer on his board. You never know how it's going to happen. And you can, I mean, what I would give as an advice, I would say, start as soon as possible training for mediation, because it's a useful means for your professional life, but also for your everyday life.
Start
also
training as soon as possible. I like that. And I'm very interested actually that in France you train in mediation and negotiation together. That sounds very, very interesting. Oh,
it's me.
No problem.
Sorry. Up.
No problem. And I think, you know, just if anything needs to change in the system in France to encourage more female mediators, do you have any thoughts on what that might be?
I mean, judge could say, could designate it, could give two names, a list of men, a list of women, and say, well, you'll have to work together and to share the fears. That's a way.
So yes, designate the co-mediation. Yes, judges could encourage that. And actually not in any sort of positive discrimination sense. I have interviewed another female mediator who said that the parties just did ask her to mediate with someone else. And she's a very successful mediator, so I'm sure it was nothing to do with trying to promote female mediators, but they just wanted two mediators, and these were the ones that they wanted. And so it's very unusual to not let mediators choose who they work with. So that's interesting. Laurence, it's been so lovely talking to you. Any final words that you would like to leave us with about mediation, about women in mediation, or anything else?
Women in mediation, let us conquest other field than family or social or labor law, labor matters. We can be good in other fields also. So we have to be confident on that. That's for sure.
So having that confidence that we can conquer other fields and that we can work successfully in other fields.
Yes, of course, not only family.
Laurence Krief, thank you so much. It has been so delightful speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mia. Bye.